The other day, I got tickets for me and two of my best girlfriends to go to the Justin Timberlake concert here in Vancouver. But the day of the concert, there was a lot going on. After a full day of work and then picking my kids up from after school care, I had a lot to do from that time and the time we had to leave for the concert. I had to clean the house and just tidy things up, partly because one of my best friends was coming in from the suburbs and gonna stay overnight. So I had to change the sheets on the guest bed, tidy up, get things ready for her. I had to shower, get myself ready. I had to manage my kids and tend to their needs and their snacks and putting their stuff away. I had to make supper and get everything ready because my parents were coming over to babysit, and because they were coming over right at supper time, I made supper for all 7 of us, my girlfriend included, who was coming in from out of town. And now this was a lot to do in the amount of time that I had. And because I'm a time optimist, I thought it was going to be plenty of time. But as the minutes ticked on, it was getting closer and closer to the time we had to leave. And I was still stuck in the kitchen making dinner and trying to get everything prepared. Now, that in and of itself was okay. I'm okay with working under pressure as long as I can focus and get done what I need to get done without distraction. Now, what I'm not good at is having to context switch. Because I'm a more highly sensitive person, I find it harder to go from one thing and then back to the other and then focus on one thing, get pulled away from it, and then have to come back and regroup and keep going on what I'm doing. Maybe you're like that too, when you're at work and you're focusing on a task and then someone comes and asks for something, or your phone rings, or you get an email notification and your focus gets taken away from what you're doing. And then you kind of get a little bit overwhelmed or put off or frazzled, and getting back to that thing you were doing before, it takes you a minute. You have to regroup and remember what you were in the middle of and get your brain back on track. And so it requires extra effort for you. And when that's happening a lot and you're under a time crunch, it can be totally overstimulating and you can get overwhelmed pretty easily. This is what was happening to me. I was in the kitchen cooking dinner. My mom was asking me where the paintbrushes were for the kids who were doing some art. My kids were asking me where the extra paper was so that they can keep doing their art. My dad was asking me for a drink because he was sitting and waiting for the meal and wanted something to drink. And there are these people asking me for things, looking for directions, looking for where things were, wanting me to stop what I was doing and help them out, split my focus and do something else. I was in the middle of trying to make this dinner, get it on the table, get everyone fed, finish getting myself ready, and get out the door. Now, what I normally would have done is I would have been in the kitchen, tending to everyone's needs, stopping what I'm doing, getting them what they want, and then noticing myself getting more and more stressed, frustrated, and overwhelmed to the point that I would just get angry, which, in all honesty, would have looked like me either aggressively or angrily raising my voice and telling everyone to just be quiet and leave me alone, which probably would have left them feeling confused and maybe even hurt that they didn't know they were doing anything wrong and I just had this big reaction to them. Or it would have looked like me saying nothing and then just shoving it all down, continuing to build in my overwhelm, in my stress, and in my anxiety, watching the clock tick on while I'm trying to get this done, but it's taking way longer because I'm trying to do all of these other things at the same time. And then I would have had my stress mount so much that it would have trickled into the rest of this really fun evening that I had been looking forward to. And it probably would have taken me a little bit to get past the stress of the evening to be able to move on from it and be more present and relaxed with my girlfriends during this fun evening. But instead, this time I did something completely different. When I noticed myself starting to get frustrated, overwhelmed, and overstimulated with everything that was coming at me, I tuned into myself. I turned inward and I paid attention. After doing this work and practicing what I'm teaching you, I am a student of a lot of my own work as well. I started to notice when things inside of me in my emotional and mental state were not feeling okay. And before getting to a point where it was tipping over the edge, I decided it would probably be a better idea to catch it before then. And so I tuned into what I was feeling, I took a deep breath, and I set the parameters clearly and calmly for what I was available for. I stopped what I was doing, I looked around the room, and I said, okay, everyone, I am in a time crunch. I need to get this supper done and on the table. And when I'm being asked several things at the same time, I can't keep going between one thing to the next and get this done on time. I need to focus on the meal. So if you need something, I am not available. To my kids, I said, ask your Papa Nona for anything that you need. To my mom, I said, Mom, if whatever you need right now, if it can wait until after supper, until there's just more space, mental and time space, then that would be great. Please, no one ask anything of me until after the meal is on the table. Everyone kind of stopped and paused. My kids didn't say anything. My mom was a little taken aback, but she said, okay. And now my guess, my assumption is that she was thinking, I'm not asking for that much. Why can't you just tell me where this is? Or why can't you just get this from me? Or why can't you just help me find this? And that's okay. She is allowed to think that what I need or can or can't do in that moment is maybe unreasonable. Maybe she could handle it. Why can't I? Maybe I'm being too difficult or rigid or getting too particular about how I need things. She is allowed to think that. Anyone is allowed to think that. But what is most important to me is me listening to, paying attention to, and respecting my mental and emotional well-being, and then setting my limits and parameters around that. Asking for what I need, saying what is not helpful, saying what I am available for, and stating clearly what I'm not available for. It's not other people's jobs to know what we need in any given moment, and it's not their responsibility to know how to meet our needs or when to pull back, when to ask less, or when it's a good time to ask more. It's not other people's responsibility to know where we're at mentally and emotionally and what we do or do not have the capacity for. This is up to us. It's up to us to get better at tuning in to ourselves and knowing when we can muster up that extra bit of gas or strength or whatever it is to push through and to keep going and to get it done. And when we need to take a step back and say, you know what, that's enough for now. Or in my case, I can keep doing this, but here's the context that I need in order to get this done effectively, efficiently, and without it costing my mental and emotional state. We often think that if people keep asking things of us, we either have to give them what they want, or we get angry or resentful because why would they be asking for us for that if they can see clearly that we already have so much on our plate? We already have so much going on. Everyone's always wanting things from us. Don't they know that we're at our limit? Don't they know that we're already stressed and overwhelmed? Well, maybe, but probably not. It's not other people's jobs to guess where we're at and to try to tiptoe around us to try to make sure that they're not stepping on our toes or pushing too far or pressing past our limits. It's our job to be paying attention to where we're at and then tune into that and communicate where we're at, what we need, and what we can or can't do. This is what emotional intelligence is. We've been talking lately on here about emotional intelligence, and we will continue to talk about emotional intelligence. Because emotional intelligence is not about always having the perfect feeling. It's not about never letting anything bother us, get to us, stress us out, overwhelm us, hurt our feelings. That's not what emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence is about tuning in and getting curious about what's happening inside of us and why. And then deciding what we want to do about it, before we act out in an emotionally immature way, an emotionally unintelligent way, by reacting, acting out, blaming, shaming, criticizing, yelling, screaming, or doing the opposite and going completely inward and avoiding, pushing people away, ghosting, using the silent treatment, some form of punishment or reaction to what is happening around us that we have not been managing within ourselves. So often, especially for those of us who are caregivers, who are empathic, who want to be there for other people, who find relationships very important, and we don't ever want to disappoint or let someone down, we think that just because someone asks something of us, whether it's big or small, that we automatically have to concede. We automatically have to do it. We automatically have to give them what they asked for. But I'm here to remind you that you don't. You don't have to go along with, adhere to, respond to, or give to someone's request just because they asked it. If it's them asking you to lend them your vehicle, lend you some money, give you up your entire weekend to help them move, come to some kind of event that they're throwing, even though it's on the night that you had promised you would give to yourself to just relax and rest and pour in to your well-being. You don't have to say yes. Whether it's something big like that or as small as you being in the middle of something and someone coming and asking you to help them with something immediately, to come and show them where something is in that exact moment, to stop what you're doing and tend to whatever it is that they may want or need in that moment. You can, and oftentimes you will have the capacity to, but in those times when you don't, you are allowed to say no. You don't always have to be pushing yourself to your limit to meet other people's wants, needs, preferences, or requests. Emotional intelligence is about you taking a step back and tuning in and noticing what you're feeling and how you're feeling and what you want to do to manage those feelings, to manage your well-being at any given moment. This comes from clearly stating what we're available for or not available for, clearly stating whatever boundaries we may want to make clear, because probably we haven't, and what we can give and what we can't give in any particular moment or situation. I have a free download for you. It's called 25 Ways to Say No. And if you struggle with saying no, that is going to give you 25 different clear yet kind and gentle relationship preserving ways to say no. Make sure you grab that download. It's in the description and it's free. Now let me know. Does this ever happen to you? Do you ever feel like you have so many things coming at you at once and you can feel the tension building? You can feel the stress mounting. You can feel the overwhelm boiling. And you either end up letting it go to such a point that you either explode or implode. And you don't want to do that anymore. Here's what you can do instead. Let me know if you try it, and also let me know what connected with you from this talk. As always, take good care of yourselves. Take good care of those around you. Bye for now.